大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello and welcome to LupinRecap vs. PatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Lokamasi, and with me is my lovely co-host, Fefner Masamune.
We're recording a day later than we expected because yesterday Netflix personally insulted Loka to his face with the Ava release, and Araki personally came to my house, tore my heart out, and threw it on the fence.
Yeah, Johnny Netflix broke into my house and called me a bitch.
He pissed on my anime, that's right, he pissed on my fucking anime.
I'm gonna make an announcement. Johnny Netflix is a bitch-ass motherfucker. He censored the queerness in my anime. That's right. God. We've already completely derailed and it's barely even a minute in. But today, we're talking about episode 31 of Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger. So I was upset about Ava too much to think of a discussion question. So instead I'm going to talk about something that I kind of wanted to bring up since I looked it up. The actors playing the Rangers have had careers prior to this show. Well, most of them. And I thought now it would be as good a time as any to talk about that. So let's start with Lupin Red, because it's the easiest. Asahi Ito has been in almost nothing. This is his big break, and he came into it pretty quickly in his career, I guess.
He was just really good at shouting, what can we say?
He's just really good at being a childlike asshole. So next, Lupin Blue. Shogo Hama has had something of her career, but not much. Seems like what he's mostly done has been a model for magazines. Which is interesting that, he wasn't super in, acting stuff, because he's probably one of the better actors on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's very intense whenever he does it. Actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more this actually makes sense of his acting ability. Because, when he needs to go hard, he can go hard, but for subtle stuff, it's mostly the physical acting, isn't it?
Yep.
His voice doesn't change a whole lot. Rounding out the Lupins, we have Lupin Yellow, Haruka Kudo. Not a whole lot of acting experience, but she is part of a pop idol group since she was 12. Apparently 11 years and 11 months, so 12. I'm not splitting hairs. I guess that's why she had, a small singing part in the Dream episode.
Yep.
So yeah, Lupin Rangers. Not a whole lot of acting experience in any of them. It's kind of interesting that it worked out that way. With the Pot Rangers, with Ichigo, Kosei Yuki has had a few minor parts. He has, a career in acting. It's not like Asahi Ito or Shogo Hama where they just sort of bumble into this. Kosei Yuki has done things. The only thing I really recognized, apparently he was in the Danganronpa 2 stage play, one of them.
Maybe.
I cannot find anything confirming that, though. The character he played isn't even listed in most of them. I think he plays, a spoiler character, so that might be why they're not listing him. But the character's hair is, ridiculous, so I want to see Yuki with that hairstyle.
And what can we say? Really good at shouting, more so than Asahi.
Yeah. Asahi's, in any other show, Asahi would be the best shouter.
Yeah.
But they put him in the same show as Kosei Yuki.
Yeah, he gets his really tense, very upset shouts, but, nothing can beat Damn You Phantom Thieves.
Kaito. Moving on to Paranigo, Ryo Yokoyama has also had a bunch of smaller parts. I noticed he played a bunch of bit parts in horror movies, which means that there might be just a lot of his characters dying.
I don't want to see that.
We joke about not liking Sakia, so it was funny to me, but yeah, that might be a bit too much.
He has problems, but I don't want to see him killed by the Scissor Man.
Yeah, and he's not just in horror, he's done other, TV shows, actual TV dramas. Which that would be weird to see him in, something played totally seriously. Paran Sango, Kazusa Okuyama, also, like Shogohama, is a former model, doesn't have a whole lot of acting experience. I guess not a whole lot to say about that career. She's doing very good for not doing a whole lot of acting prior to this.
Good modeling.
And then finally, the fucking punchline, Seiya Matoki, probably the most developed career out of the 7 Rangers. But the only thing I really recognized, he was a secondary character in the theatrical adaptation of Ao Oni.
God.
So first, Ao Oni had a theatrical movie adaptation. Didn't know that. Second, his character dies because he's like not really well coordinated and gets chased down by the monster.
Which, clearly they weren't playing to his strengths there.
It's like, I really needed to see him do a backflip and then get killed. He does a backflip into the monster's claws. It's gonna be so weird if we ever watch something that Seiya was in and he doesn't do a backflip. But also there was a sequel to the Ao Oni movie and none of the actors came back.
Look, we humored you for this one, but come on.
Yeah, Seiya's character was dead, I think, but still, it would have been funny to see him in 2 movies based off of terrible RPG Maker games.
Ao Oni was pretty popular.
Yeah. When I say terrible, I don't really think it's that bad. Like, it was, given the time period it came out.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Given the time period it came out, it made sense for it getting so popular, but, there were better versions of that even when it came out, like the Far Future chapter of Live Alive.
Yep, the first one.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I thought we could benefit from some slight history of where these actors are coming from. Most of them don't have a whole lot of experience.
Yeah, honestly, they put on a really good performance, especially for having limited experience in this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually one of the things that carries over to Power Rangers. Power Rangers is one of the franchises where they're constantly cycling through new talent. A lot of times, it's really hard for a relatively new actor to get a major part, let alone the lead part in a TV show, except for Power Rangers, where it happens all the time. And here in Sentai, it happened as well. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's move on to the episode proper.
Alright, so today's episode, The Repentant Ganglar. We open today's episode in the midst of a big battle, this time with another one of those safe-headed Podamen. Ex-Emperor focuses on that doofus, while the Lupin Kaiser is busy fighting a golem. Yellow complains about it, but Blue mentions that they should finish the fight since they already have the collection piece. While they do their thing, we see a bird-like Ganglar trying to escape a group of Podamen. Back at the big battle, Lupin Kaiser uses its splash magic finisher, Big Pop and Splash, since this isn't a battle we're really supposed to care about and thus they can reuse the animation. On a nearby rooftop, Destra complains about wasting another piece of DeGranio's collection. But Gauche has apparently figured out whatever she's been working on, though Destra tells her to start using her own collection pieces since he's repaid what he owes her. Gauche is worryingly fine with this, and mentions that next time will be the real deal.
And you are a child.
You know her, the fighting freak Gauche, and we're at Pumpkin Hill. Back at the Gangler chase, our strange birdie friend has tripped and looks to be in a lot of trouble. But just before the Podamen can finish him off, the Pat Rangers rush in, but they're stopped by the odd sight in front of them. A bunch of Podamen kicking the hell out of a Ganglar.
I always blank on how to exactly describe this sort of beatdown, but it's one of my favorite visual things to see in a beatdown. Just a bunch of people around one dude and they're just kicking him and stomping on him. It's just the clearest example of we've already won, but fuck you.
Get him, Ganglar!
The example that I always think of, and probably why I find it so funny, story mode of Mortal Kombat X, this happens to Raiden.
I forgot about that.
He just gets surrounded by other Mortal Kombat characters and he just kick the shit out of them. It's great.
It is deserved, though, to be fair. It is Raiden.
I think it was Raiden. It might be a different character.
So, they start firing until only Birdman remains. His safe starts glowing before he stands up, and he makes his way to the Pat Rangers and starts begging them to arrest him. All 3 Pat Rangers shout in surprise, and the intro kicks in so they can sort this out elsewhere. Back at Police HQ, everyone's still reeling over a Ganglar turning himself in. Noel seems skeptical, even with Kaichiro and the gang questioning him. In the interrogation room, former Crime Bird is requesting a plea bargain as well as a new identity so he can live peacefully. He's willing to share Ganglar intel as well. Everyone regroups in the office where Noel insists that the whole thing's probably a trap, but Jim mentions that they always need more intel. Sakia gets an idea and tells him that they can get the information without making the deal.
Also, a new reason to hate Sakia, I guess. Make the plea deal, you fucking pig.
Cut back to the interrogation room where Kaichiro is shining a light in Birdie's face and telling him to talk. As Kaichiro reels back a punch, Sakia, who refers to Kaichiro as a Saiyan, I forget how it's pronounced in the episode, but Saiyan? No, it was a Saiyan, I think. Either way, he tells him to cool off and offers to take over. Sakia sits down and asks Birdie if he's from up north. Then he says that his ma back home is probably crying for him.
We should mention that Sakia is in heavy age makeup. He's trying to look like he's, 50.
Kaichiro presses a button on a stereo, which starts a sad song, and he starts openly weeping. As does Crime Bird, until Sakia offers him a bowl of food, because it's kind of a drag. Sakia leans back and puts his arm on Kaichiro's shoulder, which Kaichiro proceeds to break. Back in the office, Kaichiro complains about the wasted time, but Sakia is confident his next plan will work. His next plan, which will be headed by Hilltop and Jim. I mean, we have needed more of these two lately.
I'm really glad they both went along with this, because Sakia is the most junior person in this entire building.
Mm-hmm.
No one has to listen to him.
Back in the interrogation room, Hilltop clunkily enters the room and says, in English, "Freeze, you're under arrest." Then Jim, the perfectly lovable human cop man from Detroit, comes in and threatens to cram a banana in his tailpipe if Birdie doesn't recognize him. The banana has googly eyes for some reason. There are probably aspects of this joke that I don't completely understand. Birdie informs them that both of them got their roles backwards.
There's a lot. I'm upset because these are, really funny jokes.
Mm.
The good cop, bad cop routine was perfect. Just from how they try to sell each other, that was good. And I also really like this joke of they already compared Hilltop to Axel Foley once, so this time he's RoboCop and the robot is Axel Foley. Mm-hmm. It's just really funny, but it
is worth mentioning that Jim does have a jacket, but it's around his waist because it's too small for his large upper body.
Yeah, and we should mention that Beverly Hills Cop is rated R. And there are 2 extended references to the movie in this kid show. It's also American.
Yeah.
And they're referring to this Japanese TV show. I don't know if this is a case of where, the movie was super popular in Japan.
It might have been. Otherwise, this is just a really deep cut for them.
Yeah, I vaguely remember Eddie Murphy talking about having a large Japanese fan base. Yeah, I don't know if, Beverly Hills Cop was just really popular in Japan, or if it's just one writer who really liked the movie and keeps forcing references in.
Big fan.
Yeah, but I'll go ahead and say right now, the jokes also piss me off just because they are jokes. And in real life, police refusing to go to a plea deal isn't a joke. I'm not super familiar with criminal law. I'm not really interested in it. But that seems like something that the prosecutor should handle. And this isn't They're putting like all these jokes on it, but what they're doing right now is an attempt to subvert justice. They're taking something away from the prosecutor and doing it themselves, and fuck that. It feels weird to say this about the children's superhero show, but they're not treating this subject matter with the respect it deserves. I'm gonna be cranky this episode.
It is a bit scuzzy in that regard, but I feel like Sakia just wants to practice acting.
Yeah, and it's not even like good dark humor because they're not really acknowledging the darkness of it. It's weird. I have problems with this episode. I might talk about it more at the end. I might not.
Once again, back in the office, Sakia is trying to figure out a roleplay that'll work out. He asks Noel if he wants to be the detective or a hardcore cop who perhaps likes tea. Tsukasa tells Sakia that his plans won't work and that she'll just question him the old-fashioned way. She also tells Noel to keep his backflipping hands off Birdman's safe because he was brought in by the Japanese branch.
I just want to point out that Noel's tea pouring is extra as hell.
Yeah.
He like holds the teapot like 2 feet above the cup.
I mean, well, I won't say I've never done something similar to that, but, I mean, it's Noel. He's gotta make it noticeable.
I'm surprised he didn't like make the teacup do a backflip.
He does a backflip while pouring, keeps the teapot perfectly still somehow.
Oh, hold on, I forgot to get some sugar to add. And then he just walks back to the table.
This time, with Tsukasa in the interrogation room, things actually go well. She asks him his name, which he tells her is Yoshi Uraza, which means his real crime wasn't being a hell mobster, it was tax evasion.
I managed to forget his name was Yoshi. I'm so glad his name is Yoshi.
However, he refuses to give over any more information. But Tsukasa takes out the paperwork for his plea bargain, which gets his attention. But the subsequent safe glow is the thing that gets Noel's attention. But the conversation continues anyway, and Yoshi tells Tsukasa that the Podamen were probably chasing him because he was in the way, and points to one particular wound on his side. Also, if you're wondering what the Ganglar joke is this episode, technically his name is spelled with 2 I's, but I spelled it with only 1. That's what I'm doing. Doesn't come across at all in voice, just in text.
Mm-hmm. Well, then we're just going to be making references to tax evasion the whole episode.
Tsukasa asks if it hurts, and Yoshi tells Tsukasa that she's nicer than he figured. Noel looks on in suspicion. Back in hell, Ghosh is continuing her crimes against Ganglar kind, experimenting on some poor sod who just wanted to be in a basketball episode or something. Ghosh talks to herself about more safes giving more energy, but also being harder to control. As she ponders how to balance her terrible unethical science, we get some horror zooms on this dead-ass gopher thing.
Like super dead, like bolts in its eyes, dead.
Yeah, usually we only see Ganglar's dead in explosion form. No, this one's just dead. Just normal-ass dead.
Most of the Ganglars, in fact, I think all of them except for the major ones like Degranio, Ghosh, Dacer, and Zamigo, are recolors of older Sentai costumes. Mm-hmm. So where the fuck did this guy come from?
Well, I mean, the Shank-themed Sentai team didn't really go over too well. It was very short-lived. This guy's never had any luck. So with that terrifying subplot done with, we go back to Police HQ, where a very excited Tsukasa is telling Hilltop that Yoshi is willing to comply. Hilltop tells her to handle the case from there, but Noel continues telling her not to get too attached to Yoshi. But Tsukasa insists that if he's genuinely remorseful, then the plea bargain is a good plan. Since Noel refuses to elaborate any further, Tsukasa finishes the conversation herself. That night at Jure, Tuma is asking Noel why he hasn't taken the treasure. Noel says that Tsukasa is too earnest about helping Yoshi, so it's hard to get at the safe. Umika asks if there's any way to steal the collection piece without hurting her girlfriend's feelings, but Tuma doesn't like the idea about being patient. Noel calls the collection piece troublesome, before we cut to a shot of the moon. We then shift to a cell where Tsukasa enters and tells Yoshi that the plea bargain was approved. She asks Yoshi what he's going to do, and he says that he wants to enjoy his youth, as we shift to a dream scene in which Yoshi is a punk high schooler.
This is also an incredibly good scene.
Tsukasa, Kaiichiro, and Sakuya are also there as high schoolers, and Tsukasa's talking about how they can become whatever they want. Dream Kaiichiro, of course, still wants to be a police officer. Dream Team Sakuya, in a twist that nobody could have expected, but nobody should be surprised at, wants to become a YouTuber.
I mean, he has the whole, like, disrespecting women thing down. He'd fit right in.
Dream Team Teen Tsukasa wants to work at a toy company. But Yoshi just wants to start a family, and we cut to him in an apron making breakfast. Then short-haired Tsukasa in a suit comes in, killing my gay ass instantly. Back in reality, Tsukasa is a little confused as to why Yoshi just stood there daydreaming, but she says it sounds good. Probably. Either way, Tsukasa gives Yoshi some katsudon, and then the two eat, some faster than others. Yoshi then tells Tsukasa that Ghosh was the one to give him his larger wound. We then cut to Ghosh's terrible safe experiment and Yoshi's narrow escape thereof. It's also worth noting that that injury he keeps pointing to is pretty sizable because there's supposed to be a safe there. It was once a two-safe Ganglar, not anymore. Yoshi warns Tsukasa that Ghosh has been gathering safes, though he doesn't know what the exact experiment is. We then shift to Noel leaving Jour and making a call for a request, and he's speaking French. The next day at Police HQ, Tsukasa is horrified to learn that Yoshi is being transferred to the French HQ. Naturally, she immediately knows that Noel is that bitch what did the deed, and confronts him in the stairwell. Noel says that he can't answer her, and leaves it at that. Tsukasa slams the wall in frustration. We then cut to the cops on the road, with Yoshi riding along with them. Yoshi thanks Tsukasa for what she's done, but their interaction isn't over yet. Their car is shot, and a group of Podamen charges them. Kaiichiro tells Tsukasa to get Yoshi to safety, and he and Sakuya handle the Podamen. Tsukasa and Yoshi make it to a construction zone, and she tells him that she'll buy time. But Yoshi stops her and requests that she take his treasure. For a moment, the two stare at one another. But then, Yoshi's face opens like a cuckoo clock, and his demeanor changes entirely. Yoshi has no idea who Tsukasa is, nor why she has his treasure. He attacks her, but before he can choke her, Noel shoots him in the back. Tsukasa asks Noel what's going on, and he tells her that Yoshi's treasure, à l'inverse, swaps good and evil. And so, because Yoshi's a terribly bloodthirsty Ganglar, the collection piece made him kind-hearted. Tsukasa drops the collection piece, and Noel retrieves it. But Tsukasa notes that he knew what was going on the entire time. Noel assures her that even if she was deceived, she was noble and dazzling the entire time. Noel then kaisatsu changes and rushes in. Ichigo and Nigu also arrive on the scene and join the fight. Tsukasa, now very angry, kaisatsu change and rushes in, and dropkicks Yoshi over. Twice. The second time, Ichigo and Nigu hold them down for her.
Her choreography during this fight is really, really good.
She mad.
She's very animated. And also, Chase You Up is playing, so Look out.
Good Striker wanders in and notes that they're pretty intense today. Without giving Yoshi much time to breathe, the Pat Rangers form Pat Ranger Yugo and blow him up with a one-hit strike. Seriously though, I know we usually like saying that, it's nice when Yugo actually gets to fight properly, but also, this one is supposed to be just quick hit, one-hit strike, dead.
Yeah.
Yugo ain't fucking around.
I mainly just think of when they fought the Dream Ganglar.
Yeah.
That was really, really good. Mm-hmm. That might be my favorite Yugo fight in the whole show.
Yoshi explodes, which means it must be time for Ghosh. X sidles up to Yugo as the camera switches to Yoshi's destroyed safe and pans upwards to Ghosh's terrible Chimera Ganglar. The camera cuts to Not 1, 2, nor even 3, but 4 safe all over this Killer Man-ass gopher. It puts 1 foot forward, and a safe on its leg glows. Then Yugo glows, and separates. Goody freaks out because Killer Man has bad boys, a treasure piece he refers to as his natural enemy, because it's a collection piece that can neutralize other collection pieces.
What you gonna do, good striker? What you gonna do when they come for you?
What you gonna do when it separates you? Ghosh wanders in at last and picks up Yoshi's destroyed safe. Tsukasa realizes that the Killer Man is a result of the experiment that Yoshi was talking about earlier, but it's too late to do much about that. Ghosh drops yet another collection piece into Yoshi's broken safe and shoves that into Killer Man's chest. She then fires a beam that fixes and affixes the safe into Killer Man properly, and makes him big. The Pat Rangers retreat to a safe distance, and X notices that this guy's now a status quintuple, something we the viewers have not seen at all. Ichigo activates the Pat Kaiser despite X and Goody both warning him against it. Right out the gate, the Pat Kaiser attempts to use Bullet Strike, but one of the safes on Killer Man's body activates and provides a shield strong enough to not get blown to smithereens by the special attack. One of the other safes activates, and Killer Man uses a Claw Strike similar to one of Lyman's attacks. Except Lyman didn't need a safe power for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yet another safe activates, and Killer Man just fucking drop kicks the Pat Kaiser. I want to see the Ganglar whose power that was. Just, not torn apart and bound to an abomination. And
My power to kick anyone on Earth.
And just to really drive the point home, the chest safe activates, and Killer Man pukes out a bunch of green orbs that hit the Pat Kaiser. Ichigo decides to activate Pat Kaiser strong for the advantage, but Killer Man activates 2 of its own safes at the same time, causing Goody to panic. Killer Man forms its own special attack, which is some kind of big saw thing. X from a distance shouts at the Pat Rangers to get the heck out of there, and the Lupin Rangers also enter the scene after being absent for most of the episode. Just in time to see Killer Man throw a disc at the Pat Kaiser, which blows the mech apart. The Lupin Rangers look their way, then back to the monstrosity that they're going to have to fight. Next episode. So yeah, that's one way to that's one hell of a way to end the episode.
Yeah, the next week's episode just bled into this week. Sorry. Also, a quick thing about that shot. I think there may have been a shot like that earlier in the show.
Which one?
The shot of the Lupin Rangers looking at the mech fight.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first season where they've actually done shots like that. There's been shots of like the Rangers cheering on the mech from below and stuff like that, but they always do like shot reverse shots.
Oh, yeah.
Where you don't see them in the same shot. I'm saying shot a lot. But this is the first time where they used like the AV technology to like actually put them in scale appropriate places like this.
Neat.
Also wild that it was 2018 before they did that. I feel like they could have done that in the past decade or so, but...
Technology sure is incredible.
I like shorts. They're comfy and easy to wear. Anyways.
Alright, so the Ganglar of the episode will probably
Yoshi the Taxivator.
Will probably tie in a lot to the episode discussion itself, because for once the Ganglar is actually pretty crucial to the actual plot line, instead of being the evil force that they have to fight at the end.
Yeah, like the last time this happened was what, Kiwi? And even then, like his character wasn't a part of it, just his place as the bringer of evil.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is for all the Ganglars. Obviously the thing they're doing is very specific to, like, the action portions of the episode, but Yoshi is very much important to the, calmer scenes that are actually the points or the moral.
Yeah. So my notes, my note for Yoshi is 99% of a good metaphor. I appreciate that this show says like the plea deal is a good idea. Giving this Ganglar a second chance is a good idea. Normally, the part where he turns out to actually be evil is where the thing would fall apart. Except the collection piece makes this actually a decent metaphor again, because it means the reason that the Ganglar like relapsed into crime was outside of his control.
Yeah.
Which, is the case for a lot of people. And I know we talked about like show don't tell, but Noelle coming in and telling Tsukasa like, you did the right thing, I'm proud of you and you're acting very admirably, is also important.
Yeah, it is kind of a necessity.
Yeah, otherwise the audience, especially the impressionable children, might walk away with the message that, you shouldn't trust criminals, whatever a criminal is. But instead, Noelle's like, no, you did the right thing. You did what you were supposed to do. But it didn't work out. That was outside of your control. And then, we didn't talk about this line, but there is a line, I think Keiichiro says it, of, guess there's no such thing as a good Ganglar. It's like, god damn it, guys. You were doing so well, and you couldn't stick to dismount.
Well, I think that's just Keiichiro's problem. Though I would expect a line like that more from Sakia the YouTuber.
My thing is that line just shouldn't have been in this show, because it undermined the message. Ugh. This episode kind of pisses me off. It's not as bad as the other bad episodes. But I was actually kind of relieved that next week's episode showed up in this week. Because it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I will keep watching. It's like I mentioned, episode 30 was the episode that made me want to do the podcast. So, like, we did that. And then next week, I guess after we recorded the first episode, this episode released, and I just went, oh. I'll have to do an episode on this. Oh, no. But then, I've seen the rest of the show. It's good. This is I feel like every time we hit a bad part, I want to say, like, this is the last bad part, but this is the only time they make a mistake like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things that, might send the wrong message, but because this is a show about police officers to an extent, they probably should have gotten this part better. I don't know, I'm just really upset about how they handled this. Even though it was mostly... okay, they mostly figured it out. Just that one line, and the way they make jokes at the Ganglar's expense while he's being interrogated.
Yeah.
That wasn't cool. But, so do you have any comments?
It doesn't quite bother me as much as you. Though, one of... the interrogation thing is the problem of, like, most people idealize cops to a certain extent where they're not going to notice how screwed up something like that is. But I think overall, I did really like the jokes, so...
yeah, like, they make me laugh even though I don't want to laugh at them.
I have seen far, far worse idealization of far worse things that cops have done.
Yeah, this ain't Blue Bloods. We're not even close to that level of bullshit.
But yeah...
I guess that's why it upset me so much, because it was like a step towards that direction. And like, stop it! No more!
Yeah. It's certainly not ideal, especially in the show where, like, the cops act mostly pretty well. They're all about more the good side of procedure, but people do idealize police quite frequently, and because the show is, clearly not realistic, and the cops we're following are going after the Hell Mob, it's usually pretty alright.
Yeah, it's normally like a police-themed thing rather than actual police for most of the show. But then when they do an actual police thing like this, it just... But anyways, we can talk about other stuff.
Right.
Before we move on to characters, we've learned something about safes. They're not natural. I'm sorry, go ahead.
One more thing. I do like sort of the way this episode shifts, because it's a very similar sort of set up to Lyman in that, we have a very powerful enemy that, according to the previews, one team won't be able to take down alone. But this one's kind of the opposite of Lyman, because, of course, Lyman had his group of Ganglars, so they had a lot of, physical on-screen build-up. Whereas this has been the entire season of Gauche working behind the scenes. And so there has technically been build-up to it, and yet the moment the villain actually appears on screen is amazing. Because, again, you just get these horror zooms where the camera is just going wild and fuzzy, and terrible sounds happen.
It's a very grotesque design.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This thing probably scared quite a few children, I would imagine.
It scared me.
It is the real deal when you're a child.
How many times can we reference that in one episode without forcing it? I was going to say another thing and that just knocked it completely out of my head.
Sorry.
I also... Alright, I think I remembered it. Killer Man, because I can't think of the Ganglar's actual name.
It's not mentioned in this episode.
Yeah.
I feel like it would normally be called, like, The Experiment or something like that, but for some reason its design just reminds me of Killer Man, so, that's what I went with.
So next episode we're going to find out who this Ganglar really is.
Mr. Jenkins.
The Killer Man is Killer Man.
Ah, dang it, I got it wrong. I'm not going to get the cash reward.
But anyways, God. I feel like this Ganglar didn't need as much build-up as Lyman. Because Lyman was not the first status gold that we've seen, but this is the first Ganglar with 5 safes. So we don't need any more explanation beyond that. Like, he shows up with 5 safes, that's 5 collection pieces, everyone goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, also, the thing about Lyman is, he has personality, he needed time to build that. This thing, specifically, is supposed to be a gut punch.
Yeah. But speaking of safes, this does confirm something that we talked about earlier, I think. That safes are not naturally occurring on Ganglars.
But they sure are affixed to the point where removing one hurts.
They're more like a gang tattoo. Well, I say not natural. I don't know, what the process is for actually making them, but I think the implication is they're not born with these safes. And they have to be added on. Like most things related to the plot of this show, it's just yep, that's a thing. I don't know what else to say about it.
Either that or they are naturally occurring, and Gauche is basically just doing something akin to, this thing is already made up of body parts as is. It's just extra body parts in addition to arms and legs.
Just organ harvesting.
Oh, God. Thought it was over after Roulette Frog, but no.
Yoshi wakes up missing his safe in a tub of ice.
Oh, don't worry, you don't need the second safe. That one's not necessary. You can get your kidney safe removed.
But, moving on to actual characters, this is another Tsukasa episode. I feel like we haven't had one since Giwi.
It's been a while, yeah.
And even Giwi was kind of shared. Yeah, Giwi was kind of shared with Kairi.
Yep.
And this is a really, really good one. If this did not immediately follow episode 30, it would make Tsukasa my favorite Pot Ranger. But Keiichiro is still Keiichiro, so,
Yeah, it's just, we get to see a lot of empathy from Tsukasa that, as we noted, not even Keiichiro has.
Yeah, Keiichiro and... Go ahead.
Or how much Tsukasa is, or how much Saki is implied to have being the YouTuber and all.
I'm starting to regret that, comment explicitly referring to the evil side of YouTubers. It's also just a really good fit with the energy he has.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Would Saki a guest on Snapcube?
Probably not.
Okay. Well, I was going to say yes, and that's proof that he's good, but
Realistically, I feel like he'd mostly be pretty good. But also,
yeah,
probably mostly just does unboxing videos
yeah,
and
he's not very
very
good at it.
and very obscure Minecraft videos.
Oh yeah, just garbage Minecraft videos. They're all titled "Surviving the First Night."
And he never does, so the titles are lies.
I'm sorry, that's just a really funny concept to me. Of like 100 video Minecraft Let's Play, and they're all titled "Surviving the First Night." It's like, oh, he never gets past that part. That's why.
Just...
I want to see Ryo Yokoyama do a Let's Play of like Five Nights at Freddy's, though.
But, of course, the one unique thing is, he doesn't die to the same thing every time.
One time his computer crashes. There's a blackout and he loses all of his progress. But anyway, Tsukasa.
Yes, Ikasa, the important one here.
Yeah, we talked about how she's the not really the emotional center, because like Saki is kind of filling that role.
Yeah, he's more the
'Cause he's the
emotional
peppy one.
center, and Tsukasa's, fairly mature.
Yeah, but Tsukasa is the most emotionally mature, and we really see that here.
Yeah.
Because she's willing to work with someone and like help them get a second chance, which is super important. And I guess like going through their backstories, we don't really know if Saki or Keiichiro have like relationships with problem people, but we know that Tsukasa used to not like her grandfather, but eventually like came around on him. So that that's sort of demonstrating to her the importance of second chances, and that's why she's giving one to the Ganglar.
Yep. It also gives her a similarity to Umika, because, of course, Umika also pretty willing to work with people if it's convenient, but, of course, in this situation, Tsukasa's a bit more noble. Because hers is actually based on belief in other people rather than just, that person can do that thing. Probably should get their help.
And that kind of brings us to Noelle, because they fake us out here. They make us think that Noelle is just like really, really anti-Ganglar. But then it turns out that like, no, he really agreed with what Tsukasa was doing, so much so that he just couldn't like bring himself to say that like it's not gonna work.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those situations where technically it would be really easy to just say, hey, collection power, but like, he didn't want to do that. Simple as that. Sure, somebody complains about that plot point.
Maybe. I wouldn't complain about it, but it is sort of like, come on, Noelle. I wouldn't call it a plot hole or anything. It doesn't detract from the episode, but it does, like, make me question why Noelle had such a problem talking about it. Like, I get it, saying things is hard, but,
Did you have to look like such a jerk on that stairway, Noelle?
How do I put this? It's upsetting because it's something I do in real life. Like, talking about this now would make the problem, happen now, but also make it go away easier. But I'm just gonna put it off. Christ.
You're too relatable, Noelle. How dare you?
That's exactly the problem.
Look, Noelle, I can't do backflips like you can, so you know what? I don't want to share your problems. You have your own specific backflipper problems that also seem way too cool and athletic for me to do or be involved with.
Alright, so that's all I really have to say about this episode.
Yep, and I think I got all my thoughts out as well.
No predictions?
I feel like anything prediction-wise would just end up with... I think anything prediction-wise would just be me stating what we see in the episode preview, other than just, it seems like the whole Noelle really not being trustworthy to the Pat Rangers subplot thing is finally going to come to a head in the next episode.
Mm-hmm. I know we normally don't talk about next episode previews, but I can get a single prediction out of you if we do talk about it. So, did you catch the name of the next episode?
I don't think so.
So I think it's called A Challenge to a Duel.
Okay.
And we saw in the next episode preview, Noel and Cage are about to throw down.
Yep.
So who do you think is going to win?
Well, to be fair, it did have a shot of Ichigo with a gun to X's face, but also, X does have the backflips.
Chekhov's backflips, they actually do something.
My god, he dodged every shot. Well, I feel like, at the very least, if nothing else, Noel's definitely gonna win that one morally. Because, I mean, sure, yeah, maybe he has been working with the Lupin Rangers a little too much, but, to be fair, it is helpful to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to work with those damn Phantom Thieves at some point, Ichigo.
Well, that does it for this episode. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at LRVSPR. Fafner is FFner Masamune. You can email us at LupinRecap via PatReview@gmail.com. And we will see you in the next episode.
Adieu.
Adieu.